Hey everybody, I'm Tom Vasel, and welcome to the Dice Tower live town hall. Now I do live Q&As each week, and I'll be doing one of those later on in about 6 hours from now. But this town hall is something different. I've done one before. It was very helpful to me. Hopefully it was a little bit interesting to you, and this one's going to be specifically about the Dice Tower. So I'm going to try to make this a conversation piece where I talk to you and you talk back to me. Maybe you give ideas about the Dice Tower. We have our fundraiser that's starting in 1 week from this very minute. All right, it's starting on IndieGoGo. I'm putting it together. I might talk a little bit. If you have questions, maybe I can tell you a little bit about what to expect from that. It's not 100% done. It's not 75% done, but it will be done by next week and ready to go. So in this, you can talk to me through YouTube. If you're a member of the Slack group, if you post anything in the Q&A, I have that here next to me because I know some people for their mobile, on their mobile devices, don't have, can't do the comments on YouTube. So Slack will work on a mobile device. Now, if you're not part of the Slack group, unfortunately, I can't add you right now. You can email me, and I'll add you when this is over later on today. But if you are in it's in the Q&A channel of the Dice Tower Chat Slack group. So we'll try that. If it doesn't work, it is what it is. I have a notebook here for ideas. And so, like I said, I'm going to be talking here. First of all, Merry Christmas to all those who are watching. I appreciate the, I got some Christmas gifts in the mail. That was pretty cool. We put up a Christmas video on Christmas Day. That was yesterday. We also put up a blooper video. And I need to shut my door here a little bit because I believe my son is screaming. Probably someone is playing with his new trucks without him. Okay, so anywho. Now I know, let's talk about IndieGoGo before we go any farther. I know a lot of people are like, oh, they're concerned about IndieGoGo. Believe me, I'm concerned about IndieGoGo in a sense, but I'll tell you there's several reasons why I'm going to IndieGoGo. The first of all, and this is most important, is they talk to me. They're very interested in working with me, and Kickstarter has never talked to me. Kickstarter has always treated me pretty much like I owe them for being on the website, and they do. They take a big chunk of the money for pretty much no help at all. So IndieGoGo definitely gets the edge in that department. IndieGoGo also allows you to go through multiple times. Every year there's a huge headache for us at the end of a Kickstarter to figure out who did this, and they picked these extras, but they didn't pay enough for them, so now we got to email them. Every year we have to email at least 200 to 300 people saying, you said you wanted all these extras, but then you didn't pledge for them. This is much simpler. You go through. It is a little less simpler than I like. Eventually they're going to let you pick multiple pledges. That's not in IndieGoGo yet, but you can go through, check out, go through and check out again. So let's say you want to eat dinner with us at Gen Con, and you also want promo pack C. You can do that without having 2 different accounts. You can use PayPal. That's a big deal for me that people can use PayPal, especially international folk. Another big deal is that when you pay, it happens immediately. Now, some people, I saw someone on Board Game Geek was upset with that change, but I'll tell you, that's a really good change for everyone involved. The way Kickstarters work these days is people will go on and they'll back it at any pledge. Oh, I'll back this. Well, why did you just back that? Well, it's no big deal because I can cancel it any time I want. And so, but at least I got in and got my place held. That's just a bad way of doing things. It's bad for other people who want to back that pledge, and they don't have time to sit there and watch the Kickstarter until you decide, yeah, I'm going to pull out now. And they're, there's a pledge available. And for many people, they pull out in the last week. Sometimes every Kickstarter, there are people who cancel their pledge in the last minute. And there's no way that someone else can come in and quick pledge and take this place, and it's very frustrating as a content creator. Last year, I would say about $30,000 worth of pledges were canceled in the last week. Now, other people came in and pledged and made up for it, but it's kind of this up and down thing, and it's not fair to other people. It's also like this early bird stuff. I've never been a big fan of that. You shouldn't have to be sitting there ready to go in and pledge right away. Now, if you do go in and you have the money, that's great. And some people say, well, I don't have the money. Well, then you shouldn't pledge, right? You shouldn't pledge if you don't have the money. I want you guys to pledge to Dice Tower because that helps us out, and I hope that our content is worth it. But if you can't afford it, then don't. All right? And that's, I mean, we have some really cool promos coming, but I don't want you to ever think that you have to pledge, that you have to do it. We really need people to pledge for sure. I was telling Laura this today. We had a Christmas party on Sunday, and all the Dice Tower guys came over and their families, and I said, every single person who came over yesterday is directly affected by this fundraiser. And she said, that's pretty scary. I said, yeah, it is to some degree, but we'll have to wait and see how it goes. And I've talked to Rodney Smith about it, because he's run his through IndieGoGo, and he's had no problems with them. And so I'm pretty excited about this. Also, from the back end, oh my goodness, it is so much easier to create a campaign on them than it is on Kickstarter. There is no IndieGoGo link yet, but if you go to our webpage, thedicetower.com, and you click on the banner at the top, there's one that shows some of the promos. Each day we're showing off 2 new promos. That will take you to a link where you can get an email, and as soon as we start, I will email you, here's the link to the campaign, so you will be reminded of that. I highly recommend that you go in there and sign up for that. Can you do a live HeroScape game video with Sam or Z? Possibly. The live things, if you noticed last week, Z and I did a live 2-player abstract marathon. And honestly, the live between 2 people works much better than multiplayer games. We're debating doing some live plays this week. We are going to be doing a live 30 hours of gaming. That's right, not 24. We're going up to 30 hours of gaming in January 12th to 13th. And the reason we're going to 30 hours of gaming is we're going to spread it out over 36 hours. We're going to take 6 hours worth of breaks, but also some people will go to sleep at various points so that they can come back and be refreshed for the rest of it. So that way we're not tired the whole time. So you will see 30 hours of gaming, but we will hopefully not be like ready to conk and die. If you're ready to conk and die, then it's time for you to take a shift out and go back and sleep. Yeah, I know that IndieGoGo is not as visible as Kickstarter, that's for sure. However, there's a couple things on that. One, it's up to us to get the word out, right? I'm counting on you all to help me spread the word, to tell everybody about it. But 2, people who are backing the Dice Tower are not random people who come through and go, oh yeah, I guess I'll get this game. That's how Kickstarter is. We're asking people who already watch our show or listen to our show, and those people will hear it, hopefully. So we have our audience. Hopefully it's our job to get the word out about it. If Z, Sam, or Jason have played a game with you but will not appear on the review, can you share what they thought about the game in brief form on a podcast? It's possible. I've thought about doing this, like quick thoughts on games that we have played but aren't the main reviewers. If I feel very strongly about a game, I will do a review of it. Like I'm probably going to be doing a review of Santorini. I know Z already did, but I feel pretty strongly about that game. If I feel like we both have good thoughts to share, we'll do a dual review of it. Sometimes it's timing on how we can do these reviews. But shoehorning it in somewhere else would be problematic maybe. But it's a possibility. That would be maybe an interesting idea in the future. Let's see if anyone has used the Slack thing yet. No. Okay. Well, it's available if you are on the Slack Dice Tower chat. Can you get Z to play Twilight Imperium 3 live, make it a stretch goal? Well, again, I think I've said this before, and I might have to add this at FAQ. It is my goal to be both educational with our show, to talk about different games, and to be entertaining. But it is never my goal to make it miserable for the people on board. Having Z play through Twilight Imperium 3 live would be extremely miserable for him. That's not worth money. We're not here to torture ourselves to get more money as a stretch goal. And I really dislike that kind of thinking. I mean, little jokes are funny to some degree, but to make someone sit through 6 hours of a game, no, that wouldn't be fun for him. And I don't know why. I mean, I wouldn't play like a game I hate for a long period of time on live. So that sort of thing is not something I'm interested in doing. That's kind of like the people who would drink something or do something crazy for money in college. That's fine, but we've kind of grown up a little bit past that. Well, maybe. Bets that Jason will do the full 30, no one is allowed to do the full 30. If they're going to be part of our 30-hour thing, no one is allowed to try to stay up for the whole thing. Everybody is going to get some sleep at some point. That is something I will be insistent on. Was Suzanne supposed to be doing a top 50 board game apps list as a companion to top 50 games list? Yes, but her life got busy. It's still coming. It may not hit till January at this point. So our apologies on that. But she's not working full time for the Dice Tower. She has other things that she has to do, so it will just be delayed. But it will be coming. It'd be great if you could possibly include links to variants, previous reviews, or anything that's relevant that you happen to mention during the video. That's a little difficult as we're, editing these. We'd have to go through and say, okay, this needs to have a link here. You would be surprised how difficult it is to add in all that link stuff. I mean, that's a ton of work. I would probably need to hire a person full-time to just do that. Right now, everyone is full-time working. I mean, there's a lot of this busy work that we're doing anyway, working on thumbnails, putting things on playlists, and all that jazz. And so it can be kind of tricky to add more links to that. I know it'd be kind of cool to say, oh, Tom mentioned this, and here's a link to all the expansions for this game, but that's just a lot of extra work to go in and do that. I'll mention this again. This question gets asked a lot. Thoughts on doing a segment showing what you're adding to your collection, what you're removing, and why you're replacing it. I can tell you right now, straight up, when I put something in my collection and remove it, it's because it's box size usually, how I determine that, and then I pick of all that box size, which one I like the least, which is really tough because I like every game in my collection a lot. I don't want to make a segment on this because everyone would read too much into it. You said, let's say I got rid of, I'm not getting rid of any of those. Let's say I get rid of St. Petersburg, and people are like, oh man, you said you really like St. Petersburg. I really do. Now you're getting rid of it. Well, yeah, I only have so much space, and I think that I think people would read too much into that. When are you going to do a top 10 games that do it better than Settlers of Catan? I'm not, but this year I am planning on doing a series that say, hey, do you like a specific game? Here are other games. And my goal of this series is not to put down games. Like, you like Scrabble? Well, let me show you some better word games. No, because even though I do dislike Scrabble, that's not the point of the video. I want these videos to be videos that you can point people to who do like Scrabble, and my goal won't be to insult it, but to say, hey, you like Scrabble? Here are other games that do things like that Scrabble does, and then you might like them also. I think that might be a useful video. Who's going to be involved in the 30-hour marathon? We will announce that once everything is set in stone. By the way, if these are Q&As about if you're just tuning in, this Dice Tower here, this particular one is about the Dice Tower and things we do on the Dice Tower. But it's not about like questions about board gaming in general. I'll be answering that stuff at 6 o'clock tonight. I am taking some questions on the Slack channel if you're part of that under the Q&A. So what do you think of the okay, that's not a question for this. How do you like this application? I really like it. I really like Slack a lot. We use Slack internally for the Dice Tower. It's how I communicate with people for Board Game Breakfast and my reviewers and stuff. I was turned on to it by a couple board game publishers who use it, and it is amazing. It's very useful. It has replaced email for me when in that regard. I just communicate with people, but it's also a fun chat thing, and so it's something I can leave on. I'm not on all the time. I can see the chat right here on my main computer, but I'm not on it all the time, but I can pop in and talk to people, and people can come in and talk. Now it has 210 members right now, so the talk is still fairly sporadic. You know, it's not like constant chatter back and forth, but it could be, and I would imagine at some point it will reach 1,000. And again, there's a lot of questions I'm going to skip because I'm specifically looking for talking about the Dice Tower, things that we're doing, things we could do better, things we're going to do in the future, etc. What kind of video camera did Jason use to capture the Dice Tower Cruise vlog? I don't remember. It's our small little handheld one that we have. Is there any reason why he didn't opt to capture any 360 video? Yeah, you know, that didn't occur to us to bring the 360 camera. You gotta be careful though, right? We have to be careful on the cruise. We try to be very careful with our footage that we are recording stuff that's appropriate. Not everyone on a cruise wants to be part of a video, right? A 360 video would include everything, so we have to be a little cautious how we use the 360 camera. It's funny, the 360 videos get more negative thumbs than anything else I've ever seen, except apparently when Chaz makes some comments about Kingdom Death. But we get so many negative thumbs on those, which kind of boggles my mind, because if you don't like 360-degree videos, which I can understand a lot of people don't, you don't have to watch them, and you have to consistently get thumbs down. I think the technology is amazingly cool. I love them. I like to stop, especially at a convention, and look around and see everything. I think it gives you the best feel of a convention that there is. But we'll be doing more of them probably in the future. Let's see here. Again, a lot of questions about games, which I'm not actually answering now. I'm talking about the Dice Tower specifically here. Ask Melody for her top 10 games for 2016. Yes, I asked her to get that together. I don't know if she has or not yet. So we need to record that and get it up this week. Well, we don't have to, but... Big fan of the Dice Tower. In your top 10s, it's always nice to hear opinions outside of you, Sam, and Z. Is it possible to get more guests on the top 10s? Well, it is possible, but it's fairly difficult because where we live in South Florida, so we're far from everybody. We could pull people in from our game group, but if there's one thing that you can tell by watching a lot of my competitors, other video channels, have copied our 3-man format, sometimes with the top 10 lists. And you can tell when that synergy is not there, right? I'm not bragging about me, Sam, and Z. We have our faults. We're not perfect at everything. But when it comes to those top 10s, we kind of crackle. We bounce off each other. We're laughing, making fun, and that's not going to happen with every person that we come across. In fact, it's going to highly show, you know, some guest comes on a top 10, they're going to need to be able to give and take. So I need to find people who can do that. And I have some amazing people in my gaming group, but who would be very thrown off kilter if they were in that top 10 situation. So that's why we don't have guests as much. Those two reasons. We're far from everybody, and you need a specific type of person. If you have a new Dice Tower headquarters in the future, will you increase the amount of games that you keep in your collection? I don't know. That's an interesting question. I mean, like, if I get more space, I can keep more games. I'm really kind of happy with this amount of games, though. Do you find your fundraising season stressful? Oh, extremely. I'm stressed out now. I'm stressed out every year because I'm thinking, okay, what if we don't fund? Or what if we fund enough to pay me and Sam, but not and Z, but not Derek? And what do I do in that situation? And it's just very stressful. It's stressful all the way through the year because then once we get it, we're like, okay, now I need to get these promos from the companies. Why haven't you got me the promo yet? Okay, finally, I got the promo. Okay, we're going to take this promo and we send them out. What, you didn't get your stuff? Okay, we'll send it again. You still didn't get your stuff? Oh, how's this possible? You know, it's stressful the whole year round. Thumbnails, we are working on thumbnails. People mentioned our thumbnails are all over the place, but we're trying to make a specific thumbnail for each person that looks different. I really like how Z is doing his thumbnails. I'm pretty happy with my thumbnails. We're making different kinds of thumbnails for each person, not trying to have them be all over the place, but we want you, when you see a thumbnail, to be distinctive. That's who it is. So we're going to work on that. So you're seeing some transition here, but some of the thumbnails are going to stick. The main thing about a thumbnail is I want you to see a picture of the game. Why do you do a single large fundraiser as opposed to monthly donations through a service such as Patreon? Because the answer to that is the thing I just talked about, the stress, right? I don't want to have to deal with that all year round. I deal with minor things all year round, but it's a big fundraiser. And two things. I think the big fundraiser is more successful than a Patreon is, and I don't have to be asking for money all the time. Go watch my Board Game Breakfast, listen to the Dice Tower audio show. We very rarely ask for money. We talk about it in January, and then we're done. That's our goal. I don't want to keep asking for money all the time. I'm not saying people who do it are bad, but it's just that constant, oh, he's just here for our money. No, 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 we're not. We're here to promote the show, so we'll make a big push once a year. I like it better. Is Dice Tower very interested in going to Strategicon, or Strategicon, I guess is how you say it? Yeah, I'm interested. When people ask about going to different conventions, there's two things that come into mind with conventions. Is we have to say, is that convention important to the Dice Tower coverage? So a lot of them, yes, right? We have to go to Gen Con, Essen, Origins, and stuff because those are important to our coverage. Once we clear that hurdle, other conventions, why do we go to these conventions? Well, because they're fun. We get to meet people at these conventions. But then we have to take time off of work, reviewing and doing a lot of work here, to go to these conventions. And then going to the convention itself is a cost. So will those costs be covered in some way? Will we lose money by not doing stuff? Do we have to work harder beforehand to make extra videos? So there's a lot of factors at play, which is why we don't go to a convention every week. I haven't counted them, but it seems last year there were more top 10s with Sam and Z. I don't think that's true. You could probably go through and count them. I don't think that's true at all. If it is, it might be because we went to more conventions, but I thought we did a lot of top 10s this year together. I might be wrong, but I feel like we've done more. Dice Tower suggestion, tours of publishing companies would be cool. Well, I agree that would be cool, but it's very, very difficult. I have to get permission from the company. I have to actually go to the company. So let's say I do a tour of Fantasy Flight headquarters, which will not happen because it's secret. Right? But let's say I did a tour of that, and I flew up there. That's going to cost like $700-800. Let's say I'm super cheap, and I can do it for $300. That's still $300 for a video that might get 5,000 downloads. I got to be really cautious on that. But most companies don't really want to show off their secrets, so it's a difficult thing. I've been trying to get it done, but just hard. Oh, there's 2 channels for Q&A? Well, that's not good. Hang on, what's the other channel? No, just the 1 channel. Okay. Still no question through Slack. Well, that will work someday, I'm hoping. Okay. Have you considered doing first impression videos? They wouldn't be that much different than the reviews, I think. I don't know what you mean by that thing, like the very first time we played it. Have you ever tried to quantify the effect that a positive Dice Tower review has on a game? I have not. I don't really know what I mean, I obviously know people buy games or don't buy games based on reviews. What is that effect? I don't know. And it's more than just a review, right? That's one of the things for a publisher. You can look at the Dice Tower numbers and say, well, that review only got 3,000, 4,000 views. True, but then we talked about it in the top 10 list. And then I mentioned it here, and then we talked about it here. I talked about it on an audio show. A game on a Dice Tower has a possibility of, really being noticed by a lot of people. But how many of those people actually go out and buy the game? I don't know. I have not tried to quantify it because I don't think it's possible. Will there be any Dice Tower swag soon? Well, there are shirts available already, T-shirts available on our website. And then there will be some other things on the fundraiser. Your talk on Inclusive Game was awesome. Are you planning to bring more voices into Dice Tower? My goal with the Dice Tower is to bring in voices who are interested in being on the show. So I'm not going to discriminate against other people, but I'm not going to also go out and find someone specifically because they match some set of check boxes. I want people on the show because they're great. So, for example, I would love to have more females on the show, but I'm not going to just go grab someone and say, you're female, I need you on the show. No. So I'm trying to encourage it. You'll notice a lot of our contributors on our shows are female, and that's great. So I want that. I want to encourage it. But at the same time, I need these people to kind of step up and say, I want to be involved too. Have you considered stretch goals where we would game live with viewers in Tabletopia or some other online app? I've actually considered that. We were just talking about that the other day. I don't know how many people would be interested in it. I wouldn't know what to charge for such a thing. But it's an interesting day. I haven't even used Tabletopia, so I'd have to learn how to do that first. But that might be fun. Run a Kickstarter and an IndieGoGo, do both. Well, that'd be extremely difficult because I only have a certain amount of many of the promos. So how many do I put in a Kickstarter? How many would I put in the IndieGoGo? Also, I think people would be like, all right, how much money do you want? You're running it in two different sources. I think it's best to put your eggs in one basket. What are the ways to support the Dice Tower currently? Well, we really push you to support this fundraising campaign in January. That's the main way to support the Dice Tower. There's some promos that you can get through our website. You can buy the t-shirts, although that doesn't really support us that much. You can just always PayPal dicetower@gmail.com. And that's all well and good, but this campaign is our big support. Are you doing something different from Kickstarter? Yes, I am. Kickstarter took a long time to understand when I was new. What system are you using this year, and can you explain it? It's IndieGoGo, and it's fairly similar to Kickstarter. You're going to go in, you're going to pick a pledge level, you're going to back it. The main difference is, once you do that, you can be like, I also would like a Dice Tower, and go through and do a Dice Tower. And you're like, I also want to game with Jason at Gen Con. You can go in and do that. You could say, I want promo pack A. You know what, I want 2 promo pack A's. You can go in and do that. You dropped an F-bomb in the bloopers. Do you guys swear or curse in everyday life? I can't imagine you do. I don't swear. That was not actually me cursing in the bloopers. That was creative editing. I said, hey, folks, but my folks came out weirdly, and so it sounded like I cursed, and therefore the guys laughed and made fun of me about that. That was all that happened. I did not curse on a video. I have not cursed on videos. There's none of that being cut out. I've said some really mean things about boxes, for sure. I don't want this to sound like me complaining, just a thought. I often feel like Euros are underrepresented on the channel as a whole. Do you feel you can or even want to do something about that? I don't think they're underrepresented at all, honestly. You can say, well, we don't review maybe some of the heaviest Euros, but pretty much every major Euro game that comes out over a year, I would say almost all of them, we review. So I don't think they're underrepresented. I know what people mean when they say that. They want me to talk more about the heavier Euro games. And possibly we'll have Jason do more of that, but we've even reviewed most of the heavy Euro games too. Again, there's only a few games, Euro games each year that we don't review. And I think sometimes people who like those heavier Euro-style games tend to inflate how many there are and how much people talk about them. I don't rave about them for the most part. Sometimes I really like them, and I rave about them. But since we don't rave about them, I feel like there's a lot of other channels that specifically are really pushing the Euro games. So those channels would probably be more up your alley. I have no agenda. I just want to talk about my favorite 10 games. When you guys do top 10s, the commentary works better when you've all played the game, so it makes sense to find some way to play each other's games. Sure, but that would require unlimited time. There is no way for us to have more time in a day, so it's just not going to happen. Will the Dice Tower continue to be a cruise, continue to be a thing, and will you expand to new forms of mass gaming for people to meet besides conventions? There's no current plans to expand outside it, but yes, it's continuing to be a thing. We are still working on the contract for next year's cruise. I'm hoping that that will be finished this week, but it is the holidays, so we'll find out. Do you have any goals, specific or general, for the Dice Tower in 2017? And by the way, someone created a channel called Live Q&A. Yeah, don't do that. Just go to regular Q&A. If you're in a live Q&A, I will not answer those questions. I'm not watching 2 channels. There's just one called Q&A. Anyway, I'll answer that question in just a second. But do I have any goals? The biggest goal that we have is to keep doing what we're doing. And that may sound silly, but it's a really stressful thing. We've made a lot of changes. And we want to be able to maintain all those changes. And after that, get a headquarters for the Dice Tower. This room has been useful and helpful, but it's starting to get crowded, and we really do need to be more productive with a headquarters. That's more expensive than I had anticipated, so it's going to be a stretch goal. But if we reach it, I'm super excited about being able to pull it off. All right, to the question from Slack, it says, if someone sends an email to Dice Tower with some questions, should we expect emails back, or should we put something in the subject to indicate we want a private email? You can send an email. Do not expect one back because we literally get hundreds of emails. We cannot answer them all. I apologize. So a lot of times people say, hey, should I get this game or that game? And we just don't have time to do that. You're better off asking online or asking just in general people. I always point people to our Dice Tower forums to ask there. It's possible we will email you back. I just can't promise it at this point. Can you share more thoughts on doing a kids channel? I am not sold on that idea yet. I'm not sold on it. I'm considering it, but I'm not sold on it. I don't understand that sentence. What about segments on board game adjacent topics like game groups, convention tips, organizing games? Wow, we definitely do that sort of thing all the time, whether it's segments on our Dice Tower audio show or Board Game Breakfast or Throw Punch Lunch or Board Game Blender. I highly recommend you watch those shows because those shows are full of those kind of segments. Have you ever thought of doing a look back? Perhaps a companion piece to your top 10 of 20XX where you go back to previous year's top 10s and discuss updated thoughts on them. Well, we do a segment every week, or I do one every week, called Look Back on Wednesdays. And that's where I talk about reviews I did a year ago, 5 years ago, and 10 years ago, and what I think about those games now. So I think it's partially what you're looking for. As for other top 10s, we will go back and redo them as time goes by. I can pretty much guarantee you that this year you'll see 2 or 3 of our older top 10s redone. But we're also always doing new ones too. I don't want to keep redoing the same lists over and over again. We love the Dice Tower, and you are our favorite reviewer, so we like to see you do more popular hot games as opposed to kids' games. Can that be a Board Game Breakfast segment or another reviewer? No, 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 no. And I'm really sorry that I'm so adamant about this, but kids' games are important. The kids are the future of gaming. It is very important that we review them, and I will never not do that. Also, I have kids. Why would I not play games with them and review those games? So no. And I already am doing, like, all the hot games. Like, I was just looking at a list of the hottest games that came out in 2016, and we reviewed, like, 49 of the top 50 as a general channel. And I appreciate that you want me to review them all specifically, but we need to spread that out. What if something happens to me? The Dice Tower needs to be able to go on. And I would like that to happen, but I will not back off on doing those kids games. I'm doing those kids games in addition to these other popular games. If I did fewer kid game reviews, you would not see that many more other game reviews, because kids games reviews are easy to do. And I think they're very, very important. My boring unboxing video was pretty interesting. Well, I named that, hopefully, ironically, but I think board game boxing videos are very boring. I've always found them boring. I always see people, they sit there and they're slowly opening the plastic and like, oh, this plastic feels kind of thick, and oh, I wonder what these counters do. And oh, this is intriguing. And oh, look at this. Here, the box insert. It's like, oh, are you kidding me? So I called it that. I'm trying to make mine faster. I put up one to see if people would like it, and I guess they did. So another one's going up this week. Will previous promos ever become available again, particularly Share for Nottingham? The Share for Nottingham one should be slowly reprinted in a future expansions, so I would keep an eye out for that. If they're not going to come in an expansion, I might get some of them reprinted again. Do you feel you're at the limit of what can be done as far as board games are concerned, like reviews, board game, breakfast, top 10s, etc.? We're pretty close to the limit of things that we can do. I'm always thinking of new ideas, like, ooh, let's try this, ooh, let's do that. But I mean, I got to be careful that I can't make more work for myself than I can possibly do. By the way, if you're watching this and you're like, wow, Tom did a Slack thing, I want to be involved in the Slack, well, just email me at dicetower@gmail.com and I'll add you to the Slack group later. Just say, I want to be part of the Slack group. All right, here's some other questions from the Slack Q&A channel. What game was the toughest for you to review? Well, there's lots of games that were tough for me to review, probably Seafall. During the cruise, were all of you Dice Tower team able to spend enough time doing non-gaming things with your families and friends? Oh yeah, for sure. It was a really good balance for us. Please, no more Euros, says one person. And this is an important thing to remember. I know you got to be careful. You want the Dice Tower to tailor itself to you. I completely understand that. If you're a heavy Euro gamer, you want more of those reviews. If you're a kids gamer, you want more of those. You know, you want these things. So what we're trying to do is please everyone. You don't have to watch everything we put out, but we're hoping to put out a big enough selection that you can find out enough about it. Will the Dice Tower ever do a video on why gamers need to support the local game stores? So many are buying games only online, and it's important to support our local game stores. Well, you might misunderstand my opinion on local game stores. I think you should support a good local game store. I think a local game store that's not good, I don't care if you support it one whit. Why would I support a place that's not very useful? A place that charges more money, ignores the gamers inside, treats you poorly, or ignores you? I'm not going to ever argue that you should support those. And at the same time, there's some really nice game stores out there, and when they're charging $20 more than you can get online, that's a difficult pill for some people to swallow. And I can understand that. That local game store, and you might not ever go to that local game store, so should you support it just because it's there? I'm not opposed to local gaming stores. I'm certainly for them. I'm certainly for great local game stores. But I'm foreseeing that the future for local game stores is they're going to need to diversify. They're going to need to become board game cafes or other things so that there are places that I go to and want to support them. As it is, I've been to many, many game stores that I would not want to support because they're kind of just there. They're a hangout for Magic the Gathering players, which is fine. They're supported by that. And they do board games on the side, which again, I understand. But I don't know that I need to support them at this point in time. So I'd be very cautious saying you need to support your local game store. I don't know that that's necessary. It needs to be a good one. Would you consider Dice Tower a game store along with the office? Oh, no. A game store. First of all, a game store would be a terrible idea in Homestead. You know, there's not a good location for it. But even if we had a great location, I don't want to run a retail outfit on top of the Dice Tower. No, I'm very happy with what we're doing. See, I'm just checking here. If you want to contribute to the Dice Tower podcast or videos, what minimum technology do you suggest we use? If you want to contribute, I think the best thing to do is to make something and send it to us, and then we'll tell you where you need to go from there. So if you want to make something, I'm not saying you need a certain type of camera or certain audio quality, but you need good audio quality. You need a good camera, but you don't need the best of all that. So send us what you have, and then we'll tell you what to do at that point. What's the first top 10 list in 2017? I don't know. It might be the best games from 2007. 10 years prior. When I was a kid, I never played kids' games. Well, that's fantastic. But how does that change me wanting to get kids' games out there today? Sometimes you review games that do not come to America, like Rush and Bash. Well, who said that's not coming to America? Are you aware of such when these are reviewed? We're not always quite sure on these. There's all these deals are secrets that the companies won't even tell me because they're afraid someone else will steal the game from them. So we just review the games and then see what happens. Can you find a way to sneak Santa from Catan into other live plays? That'd be entertaining. We'll have to wait and see. I don't know anything about Magic the Gathering channel. The Dice Tower Board Game Cafe, or Vasel's Castle. No more reviews? Well, that's probably not going to happen. Let's look at the Slack here. Do you get a lot of unsolicited contributions? Sometimes. How frequently do you get regular contributors from these cold call emails, videos? All of them. I don't necessarily hunt people down. I let people come to me. So almost all our contributors. We have not said yes to everybody who has come our way. And we are getting stricter as time goes by because the quality of the channel is going up as a whole. So you need to kind of come in at close to the level that we're at. Would you be open for a collaborative episode with the Shut Up and Sit Down crew? It's possible. We've done collaborative episodes. We had the Shut Up and Sit Down guys on the Dice Tower itself one time as co-hosts. We have done collaborative stuff. We did the thing, I did top 10s with Richard Ham and with Rodney Smith. So that sort of thing is very possible. But I don't plan those out because they're a lot more work than you might think. Well, have I caught up on the questions? I guess I could end the Dice Tower town hall now. But if you have any more comments or questions, I think I've caught up with them. This is difficult. It's hard to offer suggestions for something that is already doing so many things right. Well, that's a very kind and flattering thing to say, but we're not. And if I ever feel like I'm doing things right, I just have to go to the Reddit forums and I can read many, many, many threads on how we're doing things so very wrong. But I do hope that when you look at this streaming video, or just like a video, the Board Game Breakfast today, and compare it to my first Board Game Breakfast, or compare it to videos we did years before that, I hope you're seeing an increase. I hope that the audio, for example, this year, oh man, was that a pain when we changed our audio over and we got so many complaints. The audio was bad here, but I think it's much better now, and that's good, right? I'm hoping that things like that get better, but we can always improve. Do you think the top 10 videos will get harder and harder to make? If you mean come up with ideas, that's always possible. But I don't know that they'll get harder to make. They're fun for us to do. Like, this week we're posting my favorite one, which is our top 10 gaming experiences of the year. My family wants to say thank you for doing all you do for the hobby. Well, I appreciate that. What sort of new technology are you looking to introduce after this round of fundraising? Well, you know, I'm actually pretty content with the technology I have. I'd like to get maybe a few more microphones and things that we can use for our convention coverage. But my main thing, we've already bought ahead, I guess. We've already upgraded our computers for this year, so that's one thing in a sense. Better technology in that regard. I think maybe another good camera. The camera that I'm using right here is our best camera by far. I wouldn't mind having 2 of those so that the cameras, when we use them for different things, look exactly the same. But a lot of the money that we would raise would hopefully go into getting this new headquarters together, and we would need to get some furniture and desks, and we need to get some double monitors. That would help all of us be much more effective. On my computer, I have extra monitors, and I think having extra monitors for all the guys as they edit would also help things go much more smoothly. Will we see some more Tom vs. the Internet plays next year? Huh, that's an interesting idea. You might see those sooner than you think. Would you consider doing a video describing what Kickstarter is, board game meetups, and other things that new board gamers need to learn about? That's interesting. How about a Dice Tower app? I've always thought that's an interesting idea, but Dice Tower apps are extremely expensive to produce. Do you do or plan for any events at Gen Con other than maybe a live show? No, the live show is a big live show, and this year, oh yeah, it's going to be bigger and better. I'm excited about some of the things I already know about the Gen Con live show. So I'm very pleased about that. But no, we run a booth at Gen Con, which is in a very, very expensive booth. Already paid for that too. But wow, is that an expensive booth compared to what we get. But we spend a lot of time at the booth and stuff. We don't do a lot of events and things. Gen Con is extremely busy and crazy as it is. Why not add a voting system for one game review a week? Well, I keep responding to this, I really need to stick this in the FAQ. But the simple truth is no. No, 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 no. Because we're going to review the games that we review. People asking us to review a game, are they going to ask us to review a game that we're going to review anyway? So if people pick it, then I'm like, okay, now I got to go find a game, and I have to play that game this week, and I have to review this game this week. We'll review all the very popular games, I promise, unless for some reason there's mitigating circumstances, like we probably won't review Kingdom Death because it's like a billion miniatures, a very expensive price, and so on and so forth. But most of these popular games, we're going to review them, so I don't know that having a voting thing would matter at all. It would just make people mad that we aren't reviewing a specific game. We review more games at Dice Tower in 1 week than pretty much all the other video reviewers review in a month. And I don't mean that to brag, because you can certainly put forth the thing that their video reviews are better than ours and so on and so forth, and that's fine. But what I mean is we already are doing a huge ton of video reviews. I don't believe I can add more video reviews to our schedule. Can you tell me the story about your kids fooling around in the background in one of the segments? I don't know. I just thought it was funny. I got to hook up on some of those masks, and I thought it was a funny thing to do. And if you know anything about Tom Vasel, it's that I love reoccurring shtick. I do it all the time. Well, so much for me thinking I was caught up on questions. How influenced are you by negative feedback on YouTube, Board Game Geek, etc.? I love your live playthroughs, but you often mention negative feedback as a reason for not doing more. How much do hits come into play? I'm usually pretty calm about hits. Okay, we get negative feedback. That's a good question. We get a lot of negative feedback on everything, right? And I really, there's constructive negative feedback. There's destructive negative feedback, and I keep an eye on all of it, right? I read everything. They always say don't read the comments, don't read that, but I do anyway. I've grown a fairly thick skin, right? I don't mind people say this and that, and it's a little bothersome sometimes when anytime someone starts a thread on Board Game Geek or Reddit about who's your favorite video reviewer, or usually it's video reviewer, right? And then someone will come in and say, well, definitely not the Dice Tower. Okay, sure. Glad that was brought up. And then people talk about how much they dislike the Dice Tower. And it is what it is. But sometimes I read these things and it's like, Tom's super arrogant. He thinks his opinion is the number one. I don't mean to come across that way. Sure, in a top 10 list, we're like give each other garbage because that's what we're going to do. And certainly I'll get opinionated about things, but I hate when I'm called arrogant. I hate when people think that we're bought out by companies. I don't even know how to respond to that one. We do more negative reviews than almost any other reviewer. There's no way we're bought out. I've done negative reviews of games of people that I am friends with. I've trashed their games. I've trashed games of companies that I like. I don't know what else we can do other than trash a game that we like just to prove a point, which would be silly. So that stuff bothers me sometimes. Not too much, but sometimes. And Reddit is the worst. And which is kind of weird because I know the Reddit board game thread is much nicer than the rest of Reddit. But man, at Reddit, there's just really nasty, mean comments made. At Board Game Geek, sometimes those are nasty, mean comments made too. They're done in a more passive way. And not on YouTube, of course. But I don't mind them for the most part. I don't mind the negativity. The negativity is going to happen. But I think that when I get a ton of negative comments, which we definitely got on the live plays, it's hard to be enthusiastic about something that gets so much negativity. The problem is that we also get so many people who come up to me and say, the live stuff is my favorite thing. And I'm like, oh, okay. And honestly, I didn't like doing the 24-hour marathons. I don't like staying up 24 hours in a row. Maybe when I was 20, that was fun. But when I'm 40, it's just not as much fun for me to do that. So this new 36-hour marathon thing might be a way to get around that. We'll see. All right, let's see if I have any questions on the Slack. I know that you said in the past that you have the deciding vote as the leader of the Dice Tower, but you generally consult the others on big decisions. I consult everyone on all kinds of stuff. I very rarely make any major decision without talking to everybody else about it. And I usually go with what the majority of people want. Not always. There are a few times I've overrid everyone and said, I know that we don't want to do this or this, but this is what we're going to do. I'm not always right. I'm definitely make wrong mistakes for sure, but I'm trying to do my best in that regard. But I certainly want to take advice from everybody else. Do you receive requests from many companies to be Dice Tower sponsors? Not really. We don't really have sponsors other than the promos that we get, but no company Cool Stuff sponsors us as a whole, but they're not a board game company. They just sell games online, so that's a lot easier to be sponsored by them, and I like that. We have a good relationship. They send out our Kickstarters, our fundraising stuff. So it was a long answer to the negative feedback question. Thanks. But again, even though I feel pretty immune to it, sometimes it's there. And you can say, oh, ignore it, don't worry about it. But it's still there, right? And I feel bad. Some other people get beat up as bad as we do or worse. And a lot of those people just don't respond at all. Some people come in and swing. You know, if you say something bad about Rado, he's going to come in and argue with you to death. There comes a point where I'm like, look, this just doesn't work. You know, this isn't worth it. But let's see here. All right, let me see if I'm here. Are you willing to tell us how much a booth at different cons cost? Well, I think I would leave that up to the different publishers. I'm not sure that I want to say this booth cost me this much here, this booth cost me this much here, because I don't know that I want people to, again, I'm very cautious with how much financial stuff we reveal on the internet, because people are like, well, wait a minute, why did you pay that much here? That's not worth your time. This one's not worth that much money. And so that can be kind of migraine-inducing. But you can go find out how much a booth costs at these conventions if you just go look for that information online and talk to the different conventions. Are Dice Tower reviews added to your website database regularly? Yes. Is it supposed to be complete? Yes. I've been able to find games searching by name. If you have any questions, email the Dice Tower website. I think there's a thing there, and the webmaster can look at why that specific game you can't find it. How much is a kabillion? It's a little bit between 3 and 7 Google. Is Derek there right now? Nope, I'm right here, says Derek. You should do a Vaselisms list. I'll let other people make fun of me there. You're seeing reflections of the people walking behind the games behind me? No, it's not anyone walking. My computer had a screensaver pop up that does the pictures on it, and those you're seeing slide across the games behind me. The fan is not on. That's not the problem. It's the screensaver, I'm sure. Bring a celebrity on the show. Well, what celebrity would you suggest I bring on the show? So I'd like to, but we'll see. Once a year, there could be a live show with famous board game reviewers. Well, isn't that what we do all the time, our live shows? I try to bring, I have other people on my shows. I had Rado come on to the Essence show. We brought in the Secret Cabal and other people, and some other people at our Gen Con show. So I bring them onto the show and stuff. I'm not opposed to having other reviewers on the show. All right, let's not be negative about other reviewers here on the show. Since you have to learn to play a lot of games every week, you guys probably have a process for it. Could you do a video on learning how to play and teach a medium and heavy game? I've thought about that, but I don't know that I could. I can't teach you to learn a game the way I do. I learn a game straight from the rules, which I don't really recommend for many people, but every game is different. Some games are easier to learn than others. I just have different kind of concepts. I have ideas on how to teach games, but how to learn a game, I think it's different for each person. Yes. Someone said there's way more people who are positive than negative. That is very true. And we know this because of conventions. We go to a convention and hundreds or thousands of people will say very nice things to us. And That's great, and it is so helpful, especially you read negative threads. You go in real life, you're like, oh wow, so there's actually people who like our show. And the fundraiser itself is a major boost of encouragement because people say, I like your show so much, I'm willing to put money behind backing it. That's a big deal for us, right? That's really cool. It's just that sometimes in the middle of the night reading one of these threads, you can get discouraged. I'm not saying it's a good thing. I'm not saying it's something that should not be fought back, and I do. I'm not constantly like upset about things. But just with the live plays, there was so much of it that I was like, man, is it worth doing these? So we'll see. I have some thoughts, more thoughts, internal thoughts on that I need to work on. Let's see if I got any Slack things. Nope. Okay, well, this will catch on someday. You like the blooper reel? Thanks. Actually, someone's like, is that all the bloopers you have? Well, yeah, it is, because a lot of bloopers get deleted as the year goes by because of camera space. We're like, oh, wait, we should have saved that part for a blooper. Oh, too late, it's gone. That happens a lot, right? And like if you watch bloopers for television shows and stuff, sometimes they're funny, but a lot of it's just people messing up. And they're like, oh, all right, let's try it again. And that's funny to some degree, but bloopers are more sometimes where just you're like, oh, okay, no, that's not the right, and that's not that funny, too. Do you have a scoop about a major project for Dice Tower in 2017? There's nothing major coming that I'm not going to be telling you about in the Dice Tower fundraiser. Do publishers contact you before sending you the game, or does the game show up? Both happen. There is some other YouTube channel that has celebs playing board games, and after their infrequent shows, that board game gets on a hotness list on Board Game Geek. True, but the host of that show has connections to be able to pull those people, probably has their phone numbers. I know exactly 2 real-life celebrities who play board games. And also, that show has an extremely high budget to be able to pay those people and does 20 shows a year. We need to do shows all year round. So probably it won't be getting any celebrities anytime soon. Did you ever consider an even larger house to fix your issue of needing more studio space? I'm already in a pretty big house for this area. If I get bigger than this, the price doesn't just go up a little. The price will go up tremendously. I mean, we have a 5-bedroom house. That's huge. I'm very fortunate to have found an affordable 5-bedroom house. Well, hopefully it stays affordable, right? The time for them to annually raise my rent is coming. But to get like a 6 or 7-bedroom house, then you're moving into mansion territory, right? There's just not that many houses that have that many bedrooms, so it would be difficult to do, I think. Will you review Attack? Oh wait, why am I reading those questions? Those questions are for later, my 6 o'clock live feed, and this one is pretty much done at this point because it is 1 o'clock. So, guys, thanks for your feedback and questions. I see one last quick question here on Slack. Does the Dice Tower have roles, positions people could volunteer to help out? There's always minor things that you can help out with. The biggest thing we always need help with is on Dice Tower News. If you're interested in that, just email us. But, guys, I really appreciate all the feedback here. I will be back at 6 o'clock. Between now and 6, I have several reviews I need to review and get ready for this week. And we're still working on the fundraising stuff, so there's a lot of stuff for me to do. But I do appreciate this time to talk back and forth. I enjoy this town hall thing. I won't do this every week, but I'll do this once every month or 2 months, you know, so that we can talk about the Dice Tower future. We might even do one where we all talk about things together. You'll see a lot more live stuff. You might see some more live stuff this week for sure, because we're gearing up for that fundraiser, and so we want to keep awareness high. So the other one is 6 hours from now. I know that not everyone can make it because some of you will be sleeping in 6 hours, but I just try to change those times around each week. Folks, thanks so much for watching us. Until next time, I'm Tom Vasel, and this has been the Dice Tower Town Hall. See you next time.